Gambians are waiting to find out the winner of the first presidential election since the ousting of former President Yahya Jammeh, who was voted out of office in 2016. Incumbent President Adama Barrow is enjoying the advantage in partial results over his main challenger. Ousainou Darboe results are from less than one-third of 53 electoral districts having been published online by the state broadcaster since polls closed at about 5 General Central Time there on Saturday. The vote count is expected to be completed on Sunday with the results announced by the Commission's president. Now, 3 opposition candidates have rejected the partial results that show President Adama Barrow heading for a resounding victory, citing an unusual delay in the tallying of the votes. Joining me now, talk about this more, is Africa analyst Advocate Sipho Mantula. Advocate, good evening. Good to have you with us tonight. The elections were seen by and large as a test for Gambia's democratic progress and its ability to leave behind the era of Yahya Jammeh. How did the 2.5 million population country do?
Evening, Thabo and Jambo, Africa to the viewers. Thabo, what you have raised is very critical about the current mood of the post-election as the results are still trickling in Banjul. But if you look at the number of votes, you can see that there was a high voter turnout. Despite that, out of 2.5 million, we are looking at just a small portion of 950,000 voters in almost 9 districts. And if one looks at the current electorate, the patterns, one look at that women are still the highest voters in that country. But what is said, it is the candidates, out of 6 candidates that we have mentioned, that the 3 now have entered into the stage that we call this electoral dispute resolution petition. They are all men out of the 6 candidates. And if you look, one of the key opposition who has been the vice president and the former foreign affairs minister, Darboe, has come out clear today lamenting about the delay of the election results and some issues around counting. And for our viewers' sake, we have to make it clear that this is one country in Africa that is voting with the marbles. They are not using the paper. There is no ink. They are using an old British system of voting, and others are claiming illiteracy, which I still contest, because people are able to vote and there is no spoiled paper.
Now, a number of issues there coming out. I mean, one is of course, why the delays? Why is it taking so long?
Thabo, like I've said, you have a high temperature of these elections, looking at both the observer missions that are there. Coincidentally, South Africa is being represented by the former President Kgalema Motlanthe, who is the head of the AU mission there. And Thabo, whenever you have election results trickling, you will always have the media euphoria of the media always announcing results. And that's where the Electoral Commission chairperson, Njahi, has come out very clear that it will be the only Electoral Commission that can declare the announcement of the results. But where, Thabo, you have electoral disputes on the counting, you go for a recount same time. Because this is a country that, if you can recall, in the 2016 elections, there were judges who were taken from foreign countries to come and adjudicate the presidential election disputes. That led to Yahya Jammeh to be in exile, as we are speaking, in Equatorial Guinea.
Yeah, exactly. That's where he is. And he is, of course, refusing to accept defeat to Barrow in 2016. He apparently also sent some voice messages campaigning for the opposition, but it doesn't seem to have been effective.
It was, Thabo, because one of his members, or proxy, that came third during those elections, Mama Kande. And Mama Kande, for our viewers, it is not a woman, it's a man. And this is one of the chaps who currently as well today was part of the opposition, raising their voices around electoral disputes. So one will say Yahya Jammeh has been using Mama Kande as his proxy, and he has been seen at some point trying to go into bed with the ruling party, Adama Barrow, knowing very well that the TRC hearings are going to be haunting him. And one of the candidates as well, Thabo, what they call Esafala, who was the chairperson of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, was one of the candidates of these elections. He has raised his voice as well in this election outcome, which I will say to you, it is still early for them to raise the disputes when they have not been declared. The results have not been declared. So far, they've been trickling since this morning, and Adama Barrow was leading with 30,000 votes in the morning, and by now we can look at maybe he might have surpassed 200,000 votes.
Now, of course, there is tension, high alert as well in the city with the water cannons on standby. However, it has somewhat proven to be peaceful at this point. Is that the expectation?
Definitely, Thabo. I looked at the Electoral Commission media release this afternoon, and they have said that the election went peacefully, relatively calm yesterday, and today, as there was announcement of the preliminary election results in the city of Gambia, which is a small city, by the way, because the main voters are coming from Rikam, which is one of the key areas where you have more than 350,000 voters, but it was relatively calm, and even the electoral security plan, it seems that it has worked. The only problem now is when the candidate can resort to go to a conflict or not to accept the results and opt for a court process, because you have a court process where you want to dispute election results in that country. They do have an electoral dispute resolution mechanism.
Now, of course, this is happening during tourist season, and Barrow is saying, well, I mean, any chance of disruption here will spook off the tourists out of the country. I suppose something that most are sensitive to.
Definitely. Even Darboe today, when he was speaking to his supporters, he was reminding them that we are in a tourism season despite the COVID-19. And I can tell you, Darboe, many African diaspora, Jamaicans, they love the Gambia, Banjul. And that's where you can see that with this COVID-19, there's impact on tourism. But again, there are challenges that will post-elections of the Gambia. What will he be doing with the young people of that country who are not employed? What will he be doing with corruption that was in that country during the era of Yahya Jammeh? And the issue of consolidating the unity in that country. The issue of health, Thabo. One of the key issues that came is that the Gambia doesn't have an adequate health insurance for its citizens. And that's why we should not always worry about election outcome of this big man syndrome, but be worried about the basic needs, developmental needs that will come out of these elections.
Speaking of the big man syndrome and the basic needs, one of the critics are saying, well, one of the things that Barrow has actually done was to turn back on a promise that he made when coming in 2016. He had committed to serve only 3 years after winning.
So he used a constitutional interpretation that it was a misinterpretation, and that is a script of all African leaders. Once you have tasted to be in the sacred house, the state house, you don't want to move, you still have the blue lights, you are traveling, you have power, you have executive authority. So it's not easy. Once you have tasted a one term, you will want to go for the second term. Also, he's still very young. When you look at his age, he's at the age of 56. And if you think that the voters are going to give him the benefit of doubt to go for the second term, then he can still say that I was correct on my interpretation, but broken that promise to be the voters who have voted against him in these elections, which are very decisive, looking at the climate of the Gambia, Banjul, where it is the seat of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights.
So one would ask the question, then what will it take if the people of the Gambia seek to put the 22 years of Yahya Jammeh rule behind them?
You know, Thabo, I think it will be a great move for them to look beyond the history and learn from their past and put Yahya Jammeh as part of the TRC process to come and account. Because remember, for him going exile, having amassed the resources in that country, it has put the Gambia into the state of poverty. So it will be important for the newly elected president and the newly elected members of parliament to work towards unity, to work towards the transitional justice system, because that's what you can deal with Yahya Jammeh as one of the rulers who have been there since 1994 until 2016. So it is about the voters whom we have to look upon. That came from even the ECOWAS head of mission, the former president of Sierra Leone, Ernest Barrow Koroma, who was saying that the people who will win Thabo in these elections is not only the 6 candidates, but it's the Gambians
Yeah, the economic potential of this particular country in the region, and how is that fully exploited?
I don't think so, Thabo. Being the year of Arts, Culture and Heritage, when you think of their traditional music of Kora in Brikam that I've mentioned, Brikam is a very highly populated area, Thabo, but it is not well developed. You look at their wood cave in Thabo, the arts and culture sector of Big Gambia is not being explored. Earlier, you were talking about tourism. The tourism industry has not been looked into because this is one area that is closer to Senegal. And coincidentally, President Ramaphosa visited Senegal. I mean, we'll be visiting Senegal actually tomorrow. So if you look, South Africa should look at even at what can it benefit from Big Gambia, because we do have a mission in Gambia, Thabo, and that's how it is critical to look at economic development that will benefit women and youth. Like I've said to you, the highest voters in that country are women, and women are becoming the victims in some instances when there is no change, development, and there is power mongering.
Appreciate your time, Advocate. Thank you very much for coming through on your intervention tonight. Advocate Sipho Mandula, Africa analyst there, looking at that presidential race. Interim results indicating a lead by Adama Barrow, and of course, those still to be confirmed by the Electoral Commission of that country.